The ultrasound technician's face went completely white. She stared at the screen, then at me, then back at the grainy black and white image showing my baby's heartbeat. Her hand trembled as she reached for the phone. "I need Dr. Martinez in here immediately," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And bring the file from 2 years ago. The one with the same patient ID number." I sat up on the exam table, cold gel still on my belly, my heart pounding. "What's wrong? Is the baby okay?" She wouldn't look at me. "The baby is fine, Miss Chin. But there's something very wrong with your file." My fiancé Marcus stood frozen by the door. We'd come for a routine checkup, excited to hear our baby's heartbeat for the first time at 12 weeks. Instead, the technician was making calls that made my stomach drop. Dr. Martinez rushed in, grabbed my chart, and her expression shifted from confusion to shock. She looked at me with something I'd never seen from a medical professional before. Pity mixed with anger. "Miss Chun," she said carefully, "these ultrasound images in your file are dated 18 months before you say you conceived." My entire body went cold. "That's impossible. I've never been pregnant before." Dr. Martinez laid out the file in front of me. There, clearly visible, were ultrasound images dated July 2022. The same grainy black and white photos. The same measurements. The same patient ID number that matched my medical bracelet. "Someone submitted these images claiming they were yours," Dr. Martinez said. "They've been in our system for 18 months. Who would have access to your medical information?" Marcus stepped closer, his face pale. "Jenna, what is this?" "I don't know." My voice cracked. "I've never seen these before. I've never been pregnant. Marcus, you have to believe me." But I saw the doubt creeping into his eyes. The same doubt that had been planted there 3 weeks ago when my mother told him I'd trapped him. When she claimed I'd faked the pregnancy to force him into marriage. The technician pulled up the digital records. "These images were uploaded to your file by someone who logged in using your mother's credentials. She's listed as your emergency contact." My heart stopped. My mother. Patricia Chun. The woman who raised me. The woman who smiled at my engagement party while secretly poisoning my relationship. I drove home in silence while Marcus stared out the window. His jaw was clenched, his hands gripping his knees. The man who'd proposed to me 6 months ago suddenly felt like a stranger. "Say something," I whispered. "What do you want me to say, Jenna?" His voice was flat. "Your mother told me you trapped me. Now there are ultrasound images in your file from before we even met. How am I supposed to process this? You're supposed to trust me." Tears streamed down my face. "Marcus, I love you. I didn't trap you. I didn't fake anything. Someone is sabotaging us." He finally looked at me. "Your mother wouldn't do this without a reason." Those words cut deeper than any knife. My own fiancé was choosing to believe my mother's lies over my truth. We'd been together for 2 years. I'd never lied to him, never given him reason to doubt me. But Patricia Chin had spent those 2 years working behind the scenes, planting seeds of doubt, creating evidence of deception that didn't exist. And now her plan was working. When we pulled into the driveway, Marcus's mother's car was already there. Helen Carter stood on our porch, her expression cold. "We need to talk," she said. Helen didn't wait for an invitation. She walked into our living room like she owned it and dropped a folder on the coffee table. Marcus's sister Rebecca was with her, arms crossed, looking at me like I was dirt. "I hired a private investigator," Helen said. "After Patricia came to me with her concerns, I needed to know the truth about the woman my son was marrying." My stomach twisted. "What concerns?" Rebecca spoke up, her voice dripping with contempt. "Mom said you have a history. That you got pregnant deliberately to trap Marcus. That you've done this before." "That's a lie." I stood up, shaking. "I've never done anything like that. Your son is the first serious relationship I've ever had." Helen opened the folder. Inside were printed screenshots of social media posts I'd never made. Messages I'd never sent. A dating profile from 3 years ago claiming I was looking for a rich husband to support me. Every single piece was fabricated. But it looked real. Disturbingly real. Marcus picked up one of the screenshots. It showed a conversation where someone using my name discussed getting pregnant to secure a man financially. The profile picture was mine, taken from my actual social media. "This isn't me," I said desperately. "Someone created fake accounts. Someone is framing me." "Someone," Helen said coldly. "Or you're exactly who Patricia said you are." I looked at Marcus, begging him with my eyes to defend me. To tell his mother this was insane. That he knew me better than this. Instead, he set down the papers and walked to the window. "I need time to think." "Time to think?" My voice broke. Marcus, we're having a baby. We're supposed to get married in 3 months. You're going to let your mother's paid investigator and my mother's lies destroy us. Rebecca stepped forward. If you're so innocent, explain the ultrasound photos from 18 months ago. I can't explain them because I didn't put them there. I turned to Marcus. Your mother hired an investigator, but I can hire one too. I can prove someone is setting me up. Helen laughed bitterly. Of course you can. And how will you pay for that? With Marcus's money. The implication was clear. In her eyes, I was nothing but a gold digger. Never mind that I had my own job as a graphic designer. Never mind that I'd refused to let Marcus pay my rent or my bills. Never mind that I'd insisted on splitting our wedding costs 50-50. None of that mattered when my own mother was painting me as a manipulator. Marcus finally spoke. I think you should stay somewhere else tonight. I stood there, 7 weeks pregnant, being thrown out of the home I shared with my fiancé. You're kicking me out? I just need space, Marcus said, still not looking at me. My mom has questions I can't answer. These ultrasound photos, Jenna. How did they get in your file? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I grabbed my purse with shaking hands. And when I prove my mother is lying, you're going to regret this. I walked out before the tears could start. I heard Helen's voice behind me, satisfied and smug. You're doing the right thing, Marcus. Patricia warned us this would happen. I drove to my best friend Maya's apartment. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. I collapsed on her couch and told her everything. Maya listened, her expression growing darker with each word. When I finished, she was pacing, furious. Your mother planted fake ultrasounds in your medical file? How is that even possible? She's my emergency contact. She has access to my patient portal. I wiped my eyes. But Maya, those images had to come from somewhere. You can't just create ultrasound photos from nothing. Maya stopped pacing. You're right. Someone had to provide real ultrasound images. From another patient. We looked at each other as the implication sank in. The next morning, Maya and I went back to Dr. Martinez's office. I requested a formal investigation into how those images entered my file. Dr. Martinez's face was grim as she pulled up the digital logs. The upload came from your mother's login credentials on July 15, 2022, she confirmed. But here's what's interesting. The images themselves have metadata showing they were originally created at a different facility. Valley Women's Health Center. My hands trembled. My mother goes to Valley Women's Health. She's been a patient there for 20 years. Dr. Martinez made a phone call. 20 minutes later, we had our answer. The ultrasound images in my file belonged to another patient at Valley Women's Health. A patient named Patricia Chin. My mother had uploaded her own ultrasound photos to my medical file. Maya's eyes widened. Your mother was pregnant 18 months ago? She's 52 years old, I said slowly. But yes, apparently she was. Or these are old images from when she was pregnant with me or my brother. Dr. Martinez shook her head. These images show a fetus at approximately 10 weeks gestation. The technology and image quality are recent. These aren't 30-year-old scans. My mother had been pregnant. Recently. And she'd used those images to frame me. I sat in Maya's car, my mind reeling. My mother had been pregnant 18 months ago and never told anyone. Then she'd stolen those ultrasound images and planted them in my medical file to make it look like I'd been pregnant before meeting Marcus. Why would she do this? I whispered. Maya's jaw was tight. Because she never wanted you to marry Marcus. She's been sabotaging you from the start. I thought back to my engagement 6 months ago. Marcus had proposed at a beautiful restaurant, and I'd been ecstatic. When I called my mother to tell her, her reaction had been cold. Are you sure about this, Jenna? You barely know him. What if he's not who you think he is? I'd brushed it off as maternal concern. But looking back, there were signs. The way she'd questioned every decision Marcus and I made. The way she'd ask pointed questions about his finances, his family, his intentions. The way she'd befriended Helen Carter and Rebecca. She's been planning this for months, I said. Building a case against me with Marcus's family. Turning them against me before I even knew what was happening. Maya started the car. Then we built a case against her. Starting with finding out what happened to that pregnancy. We drove to Valley Women's Health Center. The receptionist couldn't give me information about my mother's medical records. Patient confidentiality. But she could confirm whether Patricia Chin was still a patient. I'm sorry, but I can't discuss other patients, she said gently. Maya leaned forward. What if the patient in question stole medical images and used them to commit fraud? Would that change things? The receptionist's expression shifted. I would need to speak with our office manager. And possibly our legal department. She disappeared into the back. Maya and I waited, my leg bouncing nervously. Every minute felt like an hour. When the receptionist returned, she had an older woman with her. "This is Mrs. Davidson, our office manager. She'd like to speak with you privately." In Mrs. Davidson's office, I explained everything. The fake pregnancy accusation. The ultrasound images in my file. The metadata showing they came from this clinic. Mrs. Davidson's face grew increasingly concerned. "You're saying Patricia Chen took ultrasound images from her own file and uploaded them to yours?" "Yes. And I need to know when she was pregnant and what happened." Mrs. Davidson was quiet for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone. "I'm calling our medical director. This is a HIPAA violation and potential fraud. We need to document this immediately." The medical director, Dr. Susan Park, arrived within 15 minutes. She listened to my story, examined the evidence Maya and I had gathered, and her expression grew severe. "This is serious," Dr. Park said. "If Patricia Chen accessed her own medical files and transferred images to your file at another facility, that's fraud. It's also a misuse of the patient portal system." She typed on her computer, pulling up records. Her frown deepened. "Patricia Chen had an ultrasound performed here on July 10th, 2022. She was 10 weeks pregnant at the time. She came in again on July 20th for a follow-up, but the pregnancy was no longer viable. Miscarriage." My heart ached despite everything. My mother had lost a baby and never told me. "The images uploaded to your file match the ones from her July 10th appointment," Dr. Park continued. "She must have downloaded them from her patient portal and then uploaded them to yours using her emergency contact access." Maya spoke up. "So she used her own tragedy to destroy her daughter's relationship?" Dr. Park looked at me with sympathy. "I'm sorry, but yes, that appears to be what happened. I'll need to file a formal complaint with our legal team and notify the medical board." I felt numb. My mother's betrayal ran deeper than I'd imagined. I left Valley Women's Health with official documentation of the fraud. Dr. Park had given me copies of the metadata, the timeline, and a formal statement confirming the images in my file belonged to my mother. Maya drove me straight to a lawyer's office. Her cousin worked in family law and had agreed to see me immediately. Attorney Jennifer Wu listened to my story, examined the documents, and her eyes narrowed. "Your mother committed medical fraud and identity theft," Jennifer said. "She accessed confidential medical records and used them to defame you. This isn't just a family dispute. This is criminal." "I don't want to press charges," I said quickly. "I just want to prove to Marcus that I didn't lie to him." Jennifer leaned forward. "Jenna, your mother convinced your fiancé's family to hire a private investigator. She created fake social media accounts in your name. She manipulated medical records. This goes way beyond proving your innocence. She systematically destroyed your reputation." She was right, but the thought of sending my own mother to jail made me sick. "Let me ask you something," Jennifer continued. "Why does your mother hate Marcus so much that she'd do this?" I'd been asking myself the same question. "I don't know. She never said anything directly against him. She just kept asking questions, planting doubts." "There's always a reason," Jennifer said. "And we need to find it." Jennifer assigned an investigator to look into my mother's background. Meanwhile, I needed to confront Patricia Chen directly. I called her that afternoon. She answered on the third ring, her voice cheerful. "Jenna, sweetheart. How are you feeling? How's the baby?" The audacity made my blood boil. "We need to talk. Today." Something in my tone must have warned her. "Of course, dear. Come to the house around 6. I'll make dinner." I hung up without responding. Maya insisted on coming with me as a witness to whatever happened. At 6 o'clock, we pulled up to my childhood home. The white colonial house where I'd grown up, where I'd felt safe and loved. Now it felt like enemy territory. My mother opened the door with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Maya, what a surprise. I didn't know you were coming." "I'm here as support," Maya said firmly. We sat in the living room where I'd spent countless hours as a child. My mother poured tea like this was a social visit. "I know what you did," I said, skipping pleasantries. "I know about the ultrasound photos. I know about the fake social media accounts. I know everything." My mother's hand paused mid-pour. Then she carefully set down the teapot and smiled. "I have no idea what you're talking about." I pulled out the documents from Dr. Park. "Valley Women's Health Center confirmed you uploaded your own ultrasound images to my medical file. The metadata proves it. The timestamps prove it. You used images from your own pregnancy to frame me. My mother's face didn't change. She looked at the papers like they were mildly interesting. Those could be forged, she said calmly. Maya's jaw dropped. Are you seriously denying this? I'm saying I don't know what kind of game you're playing, Jenna, but it won't work. My mother's voice was ice. Marcus deserves better than a liar who traps men with fake pregnancies. I stood up, shaking with rage. I didn't fake anything. You did. You were pregnant 18 months ago, and you used those images to destroy my relationship. Finally, something cracked in my mother's expression. For just a moment, I saw pain. Raw, unfiltered pain. You don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. Then tell me. I shouted. Tell me why you're doing this. Tell me why you hate Marcus so much that you'd ruin my life. My mother stood, her composure returning. Because Marcus Carter is not who you think he is. And I'm protecting you from making the biggest mistake of your life. By framing me for crimes I didn't commit? By showing him who you really are before it's too late. I stared at my mother, trying to understand her twisted logic. What does that even mean? She walked to the window, her back to me. You want the truth, Jenna? Fine. Marcus Carter's family destroyed mine 30 years ago. Maya and I exchanged confused glances. What are you talking about? My mother turned, and her eyes were filled with decades of buried rage. I grew up in this neighborhood. My father owned Chun Electronics. We were successful, respected. Then Richard Carter came along. My stomach dropped. Richard Carter was Marcus's grandfather. He died 5 years ago. Richard Carter bought out my father's company in a hostile takeover. My mother continued. He promised to keep all the employees, maintain the Chun name. Instead, he gutted the company, fired everyone including my father, and sold the assets for profit. She walked to a drawer and pulled out old newspaper clippings. Headlines about Chun Electronics closing. Photos of protesters outside the building. And there, in one photo, was a young version of my mother, crying as she held a sign. My father lost everything, Patricia said. Our house, our savings, our reputation. He died of a heart attack 6 months later. I was 19 years old. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. Marcus's grandfather did that? The Carter family built their fortune on the bones of companies like ours, my mother said bitterly. They're vultures. And when you told me you were dating Marcus Carter, when I realized who his family was, I knew history was repeating itself. Maya spoke carefully. But Marcus isn't his grandfather. He wasn't even born when this happened. Blood is blood, my mother snapped. The Carters take what they want and destroy anyone in their way. I will not let my daughter become another victim. I sank back onto the couch, my mind reeling. So you decided to destroy my relationship instead? By framing me as a liar and a gold digger? I'm trying to save you. My mother's voice cracked. You think Marcus loves you? He loves the idea of you. The second things get difficult, he'll abandon you. Just like his grandfather abandoned my father's employees. Just like his family abandons everyone who isn't useful anymore. You don't know that, I whispered. Don't I? She gestured at me. He already kicked you out. One conversation with his mother, and he threw you away. That's who the Carters are, Jenna. I'm just helping you see it sooner rather than later. I looked at the woman who raised me and saw a stranger consumed by 30-year-old revenge. I stood up slowly. You used your own miscarriage to frame me. You lost a baby and instead of grieving, you weaponized it against your own daughter. How is that saving me? My mother flinched. You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I cut her off. I'm pregnant with Marcus's child. Your grandchild. And you're destroying that baby's family before they're even born because you can't let go of something that happened before I existed. Marcus will leave you eventually, my mother said coldly. Better now than after you've wasted years on him. Maya stood beside me. You're not protecting her. You're projecting your own trauma onto her life. And you're losing your daughter in the process. My mother's face hardened. If you marry Marcus Carter, you're no daughter of mine. The words hung in the air like poison. I grabbed my purse with shaking hands. Then I guess I don't have a mother anymore. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. In the car, the tears finally came. Maya held my hand while I sobbed. My mother's revelation explained everything, but it didn't excuse anything. She'd let her vendetta against a dead man destroy her relationship with her living daughter. And now I had to figure out how to prove my innocence to a man who'd already chosen to believe the worst about me. The next morning, Jennifer Wu called me into her office. Her investigator had found something. Your mother's fake social media accounts? We traced them back to her IP address. She created them over the course of 6 months, carefully building a false history for you. She laid out printed evidence. Screenshots showing the creation dates of the fake profiles. Metadata proving they originated from my mother's home computer. Messages where I discussed trapping wealthy men, all sent from my mother's devices. She was meticulous, Jennifer said. She studied your writing style, copied photos from your real accounts, even joined groups you're in to make the fake profiles look legitimate. I felt sick. She spent 6 months building this lie. And she shared these profiles with Helen Carter 3 weeks before the wedding, Jennifer continued. That's when Helen hired the private investigator. Your mother orchestrated the entire timeline. Maya leaned forward. Can we prove this to Marcus? We can prove it to anyone, Jennifer said. This is identity theft, defamation, and fraud. We have enough evidence to press charges and file a civil lawsuit. I stared at the papers documenting my mother's systematic destruction of my life. What about the pregnancy she lost? Can we find out more about that? Jennifer hesitated. Do you really want to know? I need to understand everything. Jennifer's investigator discovered that my mother's pregnancy 18 months ago hadn't been accidental. She'd been seeing someone, a man named David Kim, a widower she'd met at church. The investigator found David Kim and asked him about Patricia Chun. His response was heartbreaking. Patricia told me she was 50 and past the age of having children, David had said. When she got pregnant, we were both shocked. I proposed immediately. I loved her. We started planning a life together. But 2 weeks after the ultrasound, Patricia had miscarried. And instead of leaning on David for support, she'd pushed him away. She became obsessed with her daughter's engagement, David told the investigator. She talked about it constantly. About how Jenna was making a mistake, marrying into the wrong family. I tried to help her work through it, but she shut me out completely. Eventually, she stopped returning my calls. I read David Kim's statement with tears streaming down my face. My mother had lost a baby and a man who loved her. And instead of processing that grief, she'd channeled it into destroying my happiness. She's in pain, I whispered. She's been in pain for 30 years and she doesn't know how to stop. Maya squeezed my shoulder. Her pain doesn't excuse what she's done to you. I know, I said. But I can't hate her. She's my mother. Armed with evidence, I called Marcus. He agreed to meet me at a neutral location, a coffee shop halfway between his apartment and Maya's place. He looked exhausted when he walked in. Dark circles under his eyes, rumpled clothes, the man who'd always been so put together now falling apart. I have proof, I said, sliding the folder across the table. Proof that my mother framed me. Proof of everything. Marcus opened the folder. I watched his face change as he read through the documents. The medical fraud evidence. The fake social media metadata. The timeline of my mother's manipulation. Why would she do this? He asked quietly. I told him about his grandfather and Chun Electronics. About my mother's father dying after losing everything. About 30 years of buried rage finally erupting. She blames your family for destroying hers, I finished. And she's been trying to destroy our relationship to get revenge. Marcus's hands were shaking. My grandfather was Richard Carter. I know he was ruthless in business. My father rarely talked about him because of deals like the one with Chun Electronics. He looked up at me, and I saw tears in his eyes. Jenna, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have trusted you. Your mother convinced you I was a liar, I said. My mother convinced her I was a gold digger. They both manipulated us. Marcus reached across the table and took my hand. I was wrong. I let my mother's paranoia override everything I know about you. You've never been anything but honest with me. Your mother was trying to protect you, I said. Just like my mother thought she was protecting me. They're both wrong, but their intentions came from fear. Fear doesn't excuse what they did, Marcus said firmly. My mother hired a private investigator without talking to me first. She took your mother's word over yours. That's not protection, that's control. He stood up and pulled me into his arms. I melted against him, feeling safe for the first time in weeks. I love you, he whispered. I love you and our baby. Nothing my mother says will change that. And my mother? I asked. She told me if I marry you, I'm no daughter of hers. Marcus pulled back to look at me. Then we'll build our own family. With people who love us and support us. Not people who try to tear us apart. We left the coffee shop hand in hand. Outside, Helen Carter was waiting by Marcus's car. She must have followed him. Marcus, she said sharply. What are you doing? Going home with my fiancé, Marcus said. And you're not welcome there anymore. Helen's face went white. You're choosing her over your own mother? Marcus's voice was steady and cold. You lied to me. You manipulated me. You hired an investigator to dig up dirt on the woman I love based on the word of someone seeking revenge. Yes, Mom. I'm choosing Jenna. Helen turned to me, her expression desperate. She trapped you, Marcus. Her mother warned me. Her mother is mentally ill, I interrupted. She's been consumed by a grudge against your family for 30 years. She lost her father because of your father-in-law's business practices. She's been trying to get revenge through me. I handed Helen a copy of the evidence folder. Everything my mother told you was a lie. Everything the investigator found was fabricated. My mother created fake social media accounts, stole her own medical records, and framed me for crimes I didn't commit. Helen opened the folder with shaking hands. I watched her face change as she read through the documentation. This can't be real, she whispered. It's all verified by attorneys and medical professionals, Marcus said. You owe Jenna an apology. You owe us both an apology. Helen looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met her, she looked uncertain. I was trying to protect my son. By assuming the worst about someone you barely knew? I asked. By believing lies without verification? That's not protection, Helen. That's prejudice. Helen's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I truly am. Patricia was so convincing. She had evidence, documents. She seemed genuinely concerned for her daughter. She was concerned, I said quietly. Just not in the right way. She's been traumatized for 3 decades and she let that trauma poison everything. Marcus put his arm around me. We're getting married, Mom. With or without your blessing. But if you want to be part of our lives and your grandchild's life, you need to accept that Jenna is family now. Helen wiped her eyes. I was wrong. About everything. Can you forgive me? I thought about my own mother's rage and pain. About how trauma passes from generation to generation if we let it. Yes, I said. But things have to change. No more investigators. No more assumptions. If you have concerns, you talk to us directly. Helen nodded. I can do that. I will do that. Rebecca came around the corner, having watched the entire exchange. She looked embarrassed. I'm sorry too, Jenna. I believed the lies without questioning them. We all did, Marcus said. But we're done with lies now. From anyone. We agreed to start fresh. Helen and Rebecca left, and Marcus and I went home to our apartment. Our real home. Together. But there was still one person I needed to confront. 3 days later, I went back to my mother's house. This time with Marcus and Jennifer Wu. We needed to end this properly. My mother answered the door, her face hard when she saw Marcus. Get off my property, she said. Not until you hear what I have to say, I replied. You committed fraud, identity theft, and defamation. I have enough evidence to press criminal charges and sue you for damages. My mother's face paled. You wouldn't dare. I would, I said. But I don't want to. You're my mother. Despite everything, I love you. But this has to stop. Jennifer stepped forward. Ms. Chun, we're prepared to offer you a choice. You can issue a formal retraction of all statements made about Jenna. You can apologize to Marcus and his family. You can seek therapy for your trauma, or we file charges. My mother looked at me with betrayed eyes. You'd really send me to jail? You tried to destroy my life, I said. You stole medical records. You created fake accounts in my name. You convinced my fiancé's family I was a con artist. Those are crimes, Mom. Real crimes with real consequences. Marcus spoke gently. I'm sorry for what my grandfather did to your family. That was wrong. But punishing Jenna doesn't fix what happened to your father. My mother's composure finally cracked. She sank into a chair, tears streaming down her face. I lost everything, she sobbed. My father, our home, our future. And when Jenna told me she was marrying a Carter, all I could see was history repeating. I couldn't let her be destroyed like I was. I knelt beside her chair. But I wasn't being destroyed, Mom. I was happy, and you took that happiness away. I was trying to protect you, she whispered. You were trying to get revenge, I said gently. And in the process, you lost David Kim. You lost a baby. You lost me. When does the revenge stop being worth it? My mother looked at Marcus through her tears. Your grandfather was a monster. Yes, Marcus said simply. He was. My father barely speaks about him because he's ashamed of the man he was. But I'm not my grandfather. And Jenna isn't responsible for his sins. My mother was quiet for a long time. Then she looked at Jennifer. What do I have to do? Jennifer laid out the terms. Written apology to me and Marcus. Written retraction sent to Helen Carter and her investigator. Commitment to therapy for her unresolved trauma. No contact with me or Marcus for 6 months while she worked on herself. And if I do all this, my mother asked, Then we don't press charges, I said. And maybe eventually we can rebuild our relationship. But it has to be real, Mom. No more lies. No more manipulation. My mother signed the agreement that day. She wrote apologies to Marcus and his family. She admitted to the fraud and manipulation. And she agreed to see a therapist specializing in grief and trauma. Before we left, she hugged me. I'm sorry, she whispered. For everything. I let my pain turn me into someone I don't recognize. I know, I said. And I forgive you. But you have to do the work now. You have to heal. 6 weeks later, Marcus and I got married in a small ceremony with Maya as my maid of honor and Marcus's best friend as best man. Helen and Rebecca were there, supportive and apologetic. My mother wasn't invited, but she sent a card wishing us happiness. 3 months after that, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl. We named her Grace Chun Carter. Grace for the forgiveness we'd all learned to give. Chun for my family legacy that deserved to be honored. Carter for Marcus's family, flaws and all. When Grace was 2 weeks old, my mother asked if she could meet her granddaughter. I said yes. She came to our apartment with tears in her eyes and gifts in her hands. She held Grace and cried, apologizing over and over. I almost destroyed this, she whispered. This beautiful family. I'm so sorry. I took her hand. But you didn't destroy it. We're still here. And Grace deserves to know her grandmother. The real one this time, my mother said. Not the bitter, angry one. The one who's been going to therapy and facing her demons. She looked at Marcus. I was wrong about you. You're nothing like your grandfather. You're good to my daughter. That's all that matters. Marcus smiled. Thank you, Patricia. That means a lot. We spent that afternoon together, 3 generations healing from decades of pain. It wasn't perfect. We had a long way to go. But we were trying. And sometimes trying is enough. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Have you ever had family try to sabotage your relationship? I read every comment. Thank you for being here.